"Say it again," she said. "Look at them and say it again." Jeong Min-suk looked at the two sleeping newborns in her arms. Then he looked at the woman in the hospital bed. The woman he had married 8 months ago. The woman who had laughed through their entire wedding ceremony. The woman who was now looking at him with eyes that were not angry, not desperate, not begging, just waiting. The DNA report was in his hand. Cold paper. Official letterhead. Numbers that said what they said. "These twins are not mine," he said. Nadia looked at him for 3 full seconds. She looked at him the way you look at something you are memorizing. Carefully, completely. The way you look at something you know you will not see again for a very long time. Then she smiled. Not the hurt kind, not the broken kind, the steady kind, the kind that costs everything and shows nothing. "Okay," she said quietly. "Okay." That was all. Min-suk walked out. He did not look back. He should have looked back. But that was not how this story began. It began 6 years earlier, on a perfectly ordinary Tuesday afternoon in Seoul, when Nadia Osei dragged a man she had never met into her office, sat him down, handed him terrible tea, and launched into a 20-minute presentation he had absolutely not asked for, and somehow changed both their lives completely. Nadia was 27 years old, Nigerian-American, born in Lagos, raised in Atlanta, currently surviving Seoul on 4 hours of sleep, 1 broken office lock, and a personality her mother generously described as too much for most people and exactly right for the right one. She ran a small legal aid organization in Mapo-gu that helped immigrant women navigate domestic abuse cases. The office had 2 desks, 1 printer that worked on alternate Tuesdays, and a window that fogged up whenever someone made tea, which Nadia did constantly because she believed hot tea solved approximately 60% of life's problems. On this particular Tuesday, she was in a dangerous condition. Her 2 o'clock donor appointment was 45 minutes late. She had 17 slides prepared. She had made tea. When the front door opened, she did not look up. She just said, "Sit down. Tea is on the table. We will start in 1 minute." The man who had walked in to make a phone call, who had simply needed 30 seconds of quiet, sat down. Because the instruction had been delivered with such complete certainty that his body obeyed before his brain could object. Jeong Min-suk, 34 years old, controller of significant portions of Seoul's financial underworld, a man whose name made experienced people go quiet, sat in a plastic chair across from a woman he had never met and accepted a cup of tea that tasted like warm disappointment. 20 minutes later, he had been walked through the full presentation. Nadia closed the folder, looked at him expectantly. "So, how much?" Min-suk looked at her. "I am not the donor." A pause. "Sorry?" "I came in to make a phone call," he said. "You pulled me inside." Nadia sat very still for a moment, the stillness of a woman doing rapid internal calculations about her life choices. Then she stood, with the complete dignity of someone who had absolutely not just presented 17 slides to a random stranger, and pointed at the exit. "The door is that one." Min-suk stood, straightened his jacket, walked to the door, stopped. He turned back, reached into his jacket, and placed a business card on the desk. "Send the proposal to this address. My foundation handles charitable giving." He paused. "Lead with the testimonial next time. That was the strongest part." He left. Nadia picked up the card, read the name, set it down, picked it up again. "Oh no," she said to the empty room. She sent the proposal anyway, because the organization needed the funding, and she was not going to let personal mortification get in the way of practical necessity. She included a note. The testimonial has been moved to slide 2. He responded within an hour. Funding approved. Also, the tea was terrible. She wrote back, "It was not made for you." He replied, "Fair." That was, somehow, the beginning of everything. The funding came through. Then a second donation. Then Min-suk started appearing. Not constantly, not dramatically, just occasionally, at reasonable hours, with the specific energy of a man who had found somewhere he did not need to perform anything. He sat in the plastic chair. He drank the terrible tea without complaining. He watched her work. She noticed things about him gradually. The way his phone calls made the air in the room shift. The way certain men who came looking for her clients would see him in the corner and suddenly remember they had somewhere else to be. "You are not actually an investor," she said one evening. "Not an accusation, just a conclusion." "I invest in things," he said. "That is technically true and entirely misleading." He looked at her. This was, she had learned, how he acknowledged a point. "Are you afraid?" he asked. "Of what specifically?" "Of what I am?" She actually thought about it, which he appreciated. Most people either said no immediately to seem brave, or yes immediately to create distance. "I am cautious," she said finally. "That is different from afraid. Afraid makes you smaller. Cautious makes you smarter." He was quiet. "My mother used to say something like that." "Smart woman," Nadia said. "Tea? It is still terrible. It is an acquired taste." Lee So-yeon appeared for the first time that same week, at the coffee shop near Nadia's building, already seated, already composed in the particular way of a woman who has rehearsed an accidental encounter. She introduced herself warmly. She spoke about Min-suk with the gentle authority of a woman describing furniture she had chosen, his history, his habits, his world, what it required of the people inside it. She was, Nadia understood, absolutely terrifying. "I appreciate you being so thorough," Nadia said when So-yeon finished. "Can I ask, how long did it take you to prepare all of that?" So-yeon smiled. "I just wanted you to have the full picture." "You have lipstick on your left incisor," Nadia said pleasantly. "Have a good day." She walked out and called her best friend Amara from the street. "There is a woman." "How bad?" Amara said. "She rehearsed an accidental meeting." "Nadia." "I know, but Amara, he listens. He actually listens. Do you know how rare that is?" Amara said, "Is he worth being careful about?" Nadia thought about terrible tea and a business card and fair scent at 3 in the afternoon. "Yes," she said, "I think so." They were not officially together. This was the position both of them maintained for approximately 4 months with decreasing conviction. Min-suk started solving problems she had not asked him to solve. The broken office lock was replaced one morning while she was at court. No note, no announcement. When a landlord attempted to illegally evict 3 of her clients, the situation resolved within 48 hours. Through channels Nadia decided not to examine. When her ancient printer finally gave up, a new one arrived by courier. The delivery note said, "Equipment for legal aid purposes. Tax deductible." "You cannot just fix things without asking," she told him. "The lock was a safety issue," he said. "The printer was not a safety issue. It was causing you visible distress. That is not the same thing. It was causing me distress to watch you hit it." She had absolutely no response to this, which was, they both understood, its own kind of response. So-yeon came to the office on a Wednesday, professional, gracious, bearing a gift of fruit. She sat in the plastic chair, Min-suk's chair, which Nadia noticed, and spoke for 20 minutes about the practical difficulties of Min-suk's world, the danger attached to people close to him, the specific vulnerability of someone running a small organization in a city with complicated geography. It was, technically, not a threat. It was also, technically, entirely a threat. Nadia listened to all of it. She offered tea. So-yeon declined. When So-yeon finished, Nadia folded her hands on the desk. "Thank you for your concern. I want you to know, I grew up in Lagos. I have worked domestic abuse cases in 3 countries, and I once talked a man with a weapon into putting it down using only a cup of tea and direct eye contact." She smiled. "I appreciate the warning. I will take it under advisement." So-yeon left. Nadia called Min-suk. "Your ex came to my office?" "I will." "I handled it," she said. "I am telling you because you should know, not because I need you to fix it." Pause. She declined the tea, which honestly tells you everything you need to know about her character. "Are you all right?" "I am excellent," she said. "Are you busy Friday?" He was not busy Friday. They had dinner. Then the Friday after. Then they stopped pretending it was not what it was. They married 8 months later in a small ceremony in Yongno-gu. 4 witnesses, a registrar, and Park, who cried from the moment Nadia walked in and maintained for the following 6 years that he had allergies. "You cried at a civil ceremony with 6 people," Nadia told him afterward. "Seasonal allergies," Park said with complete dignity. "Seoul has very aggressive pollen." "It is November, Park." Min-suk, standing beside her, said nothing, but the corner of his mouth moved approximately 2 millimeters, which Nadia had learned was equivalent to a full laugh from anyone else. She was happy. Not the performing kind, the settled, daily, unremarkable kind that does not need an audience. Then she found out she was pregnant. The doctor said twins with the cheerful energy of someone delivering news they would not personally have to manage. She called Min-suk from the parking lot. He answered on the first ring. He always answered on the first ring for her. "How do you feel," she said, "about the number 2? A pause. "As a concept? As a quantity, specifically of children, specifically ours, specifically arriving at the same time." The longest silence she had ever received from him. "I am coming," he said finally. "Do not move." He came. He sat in the passenger seat and looked at the scan photograph for 4 full minutes. Then he looked at her, this man who controlled rooms with stillness, and in his face was something completely unguarded. Something that looked a great deal like the specific terror of a person who has just understood how much they have to lose. He reached over and took her hand, said nothing, just held it. She thought, sitting in that parking lot, This is what I was waiting for." For 7 months, everything was right. Then it was not. So-yeon had been planning for 4 months, while Nadia was growing 2 people and teaching herself to cook Min-suk's mother's juk recipe. So-yeon was building something else entirely. She had a contact at a private laboratory. She had patience. She had the specific motivation of a woman who had watched someone else step into the life she had designed for herself. The fake DNA report cost her significantly. It looked exactly real. She delivered it to Min-suk 3 weeks before Nadia's due date, through a lawyer, a clean envelope, official letterhead. Min-suk read it alone in his office. He called the laboratory number, which So-yeon had also arranged, and received confirmation. He sat with it for 2 hours. Then he went to the hospital. What he did not know was that Nadia had done her own DNA test 6 weeks earlier, not because she had any doubt, but because she was a legal aid worker who had spent 5 years watching women lose everything because they had no documentation at the critical moment. Her results were in a sealed envelope in her desk drawer. The twins were Min-suk's. completely, unambiguously documented. She had planned to show him after the birth. A gift, almost. Look, I was so certain of us that I made it official before anyone could question it. She had not planned for So-yeon to move first. So-yeon came at midnight. Nadia was 2 hours postpartum, holding both twins, exhausted in the deep cellular way of someone who had just done something enormous. So-yeon closed the door behind her. She explained it cleanly, without drama. Her father was a judge. Her uncle was the deputy police commissioner. She could not touch Min-suk directly. But 2 small children, growing up, needing schools and documents in a city where the wrong phone call could make things very difficult. I can make their lives complicated in ways that never look like me, she said. Every school year, every document, every opportunity, I will be a headache they can never locate. She paused. Or you leave, tonight, and I leave them alone, forever. Nadia looked at her 2 sleeping newborns. She looked at So-yeon. She thought about the sealed envelope in her desk drawer. She thought about Min-suk arriving soon with whatever So-yeon had prepared. She thought about a judge father and a police commissioner uncle and a woman who had planned for 4 months in silence. She thought about her children, and she understood, with the specific clarity that exhaustion sometimes produces, that there was one way through this that protected them completely. Not her, not Min-suk. Them. If Min-suk believed it, he would not fight it. If he did not fight it, So-yeon had no reason to activate those connections. The children would be invisible. Safe. It would cost Nadia everything. It would cost the children nothing. She reached under her pillow, where she had placed her phone before the birth, habit, always document the critical moments, and pressed record. When Min-suk walked in with the report, she was ready. She listened to him say the words. She looked at him, this man who had found her mother's fabric and held her hand in a parking lot. And she memorized his face. The way he looked, the way he did not look closer. Okay, she said. She pressed stop. 47 seconds of his voice, and hers, and the silence that followed. Insurance. She smiled at him. The steady kind, the kind that costs everything and shows nothing. Okay, she said again. These twins are not yours. Min-suk walked out. Nadia held her children and did not cry. Not yet, not there, and thought, I will cry later. Right now, I have things to do. By 6 in the morning, she and 2 newborns had left the hospital. 5 years later. Min-suk's empire was larger. His apartment was very quiet and very expensive and contained, at any given moment, approximately 0 warmth. So-yeon had moved in 6 months after the hospital. She was organized and capable. She attended events, made correct impressions, was by every external measure exactly what she had positioned herself to be. She was also, Min-suk had discovered gradually and then all at once, a woman he did not particularly like. Not dramatically, just in the daily accumulating way you discover a chair is uncomfortable, not when you first sit in it, but after the 100th time. Then Park came back from Busan and placed a photograph on his desk without a word. Min-suk looked at it. A boy and a girl, maybe 5 years old, in a market. The boy's eyes, the specific shape of them, the way they looked directly at the camera without flinching, were so familiar it was disorienting. The girl had her mother's cheekbones and her mother's posture. Where? Min-suk said. Busan, Park said. I should have said something sooner. I never believed it. I am sorry. Min-suk looked at the photograph for a long time. Then he started making calls. It took him 11 days to pull So-yeon's network apart. The laboratory contact, the fake letterhead, the backup confirmation call, the judge father, the police commissioner uncle, the specific calculation that a woman protecting her newborn children would choose silence over a fight she could not win. On the 11th day, he found the lab technician. The man, faced with the quality of Min-suk's attention, explained everything in considerable detail. Min-suk came home that evening. So-yeon read his face immediately. She was good at reading faces, and understood that something had changed. "You have 2 hours," he said. "Take what is yours. My legal team will contact you about the rest. You cannot prove. I have the technician, and his records, and his phone, and 3 conversations between your number and his." He paused. "You should go now. 2 hours is generous." Something in So-yeon's face finally showed what was underneath the composure. Not confidence, but its opposite. She picked up her bag and left. Min-suk sat in the quiet apartment and thought about a woman in a hospital bed who had smiled at him while he walked out. He picked up his phone. "I need to find her," he told Park. "I know where she is," Park said immediately. "I have known for 2 years. I was waiting for you to be ready." A pause. "You knew for 2 years. You were not ready," Park said simply. Min-suk considered arguing. Then he considered that Park had been right about most things for 11 years. "Take me there," he said. But Nadia found him first. Or rather, her children found him first, because they had inherited their mother's complete inability to wait when something needed doing. Min-suk was in a park near his building on a Sunday morning when 2 children appeared in front of him. Small, composed, looking at him with the focused assessment of people who had prepared for this encounter. The boy spoke first. "Are you Jeong Min-suk?" Min-suk looked at him, his own eyes looking back from a 5-year-old's face. "Yes," he said. "My name is Jay. This is my sister Sue." The girl watched Min-suk with the careful attention of someone filing information for later use. "We have been looking for you." "How did you find me?" "Google," Jay said. "You are not hard to find. You have a Wikipedia page." Min-suk stared at his 5-year-old son. "Where is your mother?" "Sitting on that bench," Sue said, pointing. "She thinks we are feeding the birds." "We were," Jay said. "Then we saw you. The birds can wait." He tilted his head, the exact gesture Min-suk made when thinking. "You look like me." "Yes," Min-suk said. His voice came out quieter than he intended. "Mama has a photograph of you," Sue said. "She keeps it in the blue box on the top shelf. She thinks we do not know." She paused. "We know." "We know everything that happens in our house," Jay confirmed. "We are very observant." "Your mother taught you that?" "She says information is protection. She says you should always know more than you let people think you know." Min-suk felt something shift in his chest, the specific ache of recognizing someone you love in someone else's habits and voice. "I need to speak with her," he said. The twins exchanged a look, the kind that passes between siblings who have developed their own entire private communication system. "Okay," Jay said, "but we are coming, and if she cries, we are leaving, and you cannot follow us." "That is fair," Min-suk said. "Yes," Jay agreed. "It is." Nadia was still on the bench when the 3 of them walked up, looking at the birds, or pretending to. She had the stillness of a woman who has known for 30 seconds that her children have done something she is going to have complicated feelings about. She looked up. "Mama," Sue said helpfully. "We found him." "I see that," Nadia said, impressively even. "He has a Wikipedia page," Jay added. "I know. We used Google." "I taught you to use Google for homework," Nadia said, "not for locating people." "It worked for both," Jay said reasonably. Nadia looked at her son. This small person who argued like a lawyer and observed like a detective. Then at her daughter, watching the whole scene with the calm interest of a scientist whose experiment was proceeding as expected. Then at Min-suk. He looked like a man who had been carrying something very heavy for a long time and had just been told he could put it down, but was not yet sure if he had earned the relief. "So, Jay," Nadia said, "go feed the birds. Actually feed them this time." The twins exchanged one of their private looks. Then Jay reached into his pocket and produced a small bag of grain, prepared, apparently, for exactly this moment, and led his sister toward the pond. Nadia watched them go. "They planned this," she said. "I believe so," Min-suk said. "Jay has been asking questions about Seoul for 3 weeks. I thought he was just curious." She shook her head. "He was doing reconnaissance." "He is 5. He is my son," she said, "and apparently yours." The words landed in the air between them. Min-suk sat down on the bench, one careful space away. "I know what So-yeon did," he said. "All of it. The laboratory, her father. What she said to you in that room." He paused. "I know you had documentation. I know you chose not to use it." Nadia was quiet. "I think you looked at those 2 people you had just brought into the world, and you made a calculation. Not about yourself. About them." "Yes," Nadia said simply. "You protected them by giving So-yeon what she wanted," he said. "Which was you gone. Because if you were gone and I believed it, she had no reason to touch them. They were safe," Nadia said. "That was the point." "Nadia." Her name in his mouth. Careful. Waited. "I walked out of that room because I believed a piece of paper over the woman I had married. You looked me in the eyes, and I still—" "You believed what you were shown," she said. "So-yeon understood how you think. She built something that looked like proof because she knew that was your language. I understood it too. That is why I knew it would work." "That does not make it—" "No," she said. "It does not. You should have looked closer. I needed you to look closer, and you did not." She turned and looked at him directly. "That is the thing I needed you to know. Not that I am angry. I made a choice that night, and I would make it again. But that moment, you and the report, that is something you need to sit with. Not for me. For them." She nodded toward the pond. "They need a father who looks closer." Min-suk received what she said completely, without deflecting it. After a long moment. "What do I do now?" "You start," she said. "That is all. You just start." From the pond, Jay's voice carried back. "The duck is not listening to me." "Maybe you're talking too much," Sue said. "I am providing context," Jay said. "The duck does not need context." "Everyone needs context." Nadia put her hand over her mouth. Her shoulders shook. Min-suk looked at his children, his daughter with her mother's precision, his son with his own stubbornness applied to a duck who had not asked for any of this, and laughed. Quietly, genuinely, the kind that arrives without permission. Nadia looked at him when he laughed. She had not heard that in 6 years. She had missed it more than she had let herself know. So-yeon's situation resolved in the specific way of things that have been carefully documented. Her father and uncle's involvement became known to people who found it professionally inconvenient. So-yeon relocated. Not dramatically. Just gone. The way a miscalculation eventually corrects itself. Min-suk came to Busan the following weekend. He brought nothing. No gifts, no gestures, no prepared speech. Just himself, which Nadia had told him once was the only thing she had ever actually wanted. He sat on the floor of their small living room while Jay explained, at significant length, the organizational system he had developed for his rock collection. Min-suk listened to all of it and asked 2 clarifying questions. Jae looked at him with the expression of a child who has just been taken seriously by an adult and found it both surprising and correct. Sue, watching from the doorway, came and sat beside him without being asked. She did not say anything. She just sat there, close enough that her shoulder touched his arm, in the way of children who make decisions with their whole body. Min-suk looked at Nadia across the room. Her expression was the one he had been trying to find words for since the park bench, something that had moved past hurt and past relief into a territory that did not have a clean name yet. "The rock collection has 43 pieces," Jae announced. "I can tell you the origin of each one." "I would like that," Min-suk said. Jae looked at him narrowly. "It takes a long time." "I have time," Min-suk said. Jae considered this. "Okay," he said, with the air of someone granting a significant concession. "We will start with the igneous rocks." Later, after the twins were asleep, Jae mid-sentence about sedimentary rock, Sue already gone. Min-suk stood in the hallway outside their room. Just stood there. Nadia came and stood beside him. They looked at the 2 small sleeping people through the open door. "Sue has your cheekbones," he said quietly. "Jae has your stubbornness," she said. "He has your argumentativeness." "That is the same thing." "It is not the same thing." "Min-suk." "They are related qualities with distinct—" "You are doing it right now," she said. He stopped. The corner of his mouth moved. 2 millimeters. She had missed those 2 millimeters considerably. "I have something to say," he said. "Then say it." He turned and looked at her. "In the hospital, when you smiled, that steady smile that doesn't show anything, I thought it meant you were confirming the report. I have thought about that smile for 6 years. I understand now that it was not for me. It was for you. You were holding yourself together." He paused. "I should have known the difference. I should have looked closer. I am sorry." Not "I am sorry" for everything. Specific. Exact. The apology of a man who had identified precisely what he had done and was naming it. Nadia received it. She let it sit in the air between them and be what it was. "You are looking closer now," she said finally. "Yes," he said. "I intend to keep doing that." She looked at him for a long moment. "Do you want tea?" He blinked. "Now?" "The kitchen is right there. It is 11 at night. Tea does not have a schedule." "Nadia." "Min-suk. Do you want tea or not?" "Is it still terrible?" "It is an acquired taste. I have been drinking it for 6 years." "On and off," she said. "On and off," he agreed. She went to the kitchen. He followed. She made 2 cups the specific way, which he had learned and remembered, and which had not changed. They drank terrible tea at 11 at night in a small kitchen in Busan, while 2 children slept down the hall, and neither of them said anything for a while. Which was, between them, always the most honest kind of conversation. Min-suk drove from Seoul to Busan every weekend for 4 months, every Friday evening, every Sunday night back. The twins learned to expect him. Jae finished the rock collection on the 3rd weekend. Then he started explaining his theories about cartography, which were extensive and mostly correct. After the 2nd weekend, Jae looked at him and said, "You actually listened." "Yes," Min-suk said. "Most adults pretend," Jae said. "I know. I used to do that." Jae thought about this. "What changed?" "I had something worth actually listening for," Min-suk said. Jae nodded. "Okay, I will show you the maps next." Sue, for her part, simply moved closer each weekend, by increments so small they were almost invisible, until one Sunday she climbed onto the sofa beside him while he was reading, and went to sleep against his arm with the complete trust of a child who has decided something and does not need to announce it. Min-suk sat very still for 45 minutes rather than move. The organization in Mapogu received a significant donation in the 5th month. Anonymous, except that the accompanying note said only, "The testimonial is still the strongest part." Nadia called Min-suk. He said he did not know what she was talking about. She said she was going to assume he was lying. He said that was probably accurate. They moved back to Seoul in the spring. Nadia's decision, her timeline, her terms, which Min-suk had agreed to from the beginning because he understood now, completely, that those were the only terms worth agreeing to. The house in Gyeongbuk-dong had a garden. Jae immediately began cataloging its geological composition. Sue immediately identified the best window for observing the neighborhood. On their first evening, Min-suk found Nadia standing at the kitchen window looking at the garden in the early evening light. He came and stood beside her, one careful space, the same distance as the park bench, close enough to be honest, far enough to leave the choice with her. She closed the space. She just stepped into it, the way she had always done everything, without announcement, without asking permission, because she had decided. He put his arm around her shoulders and looked at the garden where his son was crouched down, examining something in the soil, and his daughter was standing at a precise distance, watching her brother with the expression of someone who already knew what he was going to find and was waiting for him to discover it himself. "Jae found a rock," Min-suk said. "He always finds a rock," Nadia said. "He's going to explain it at dinner." "He explains everything at dinner. He gets that from you. He gets the thoroughness from you. I just talk more." "You do talk more." "Min-suk, significantly more." "You are lucky I find you tolerable," she said. "I know," he said. "I find it remarkable." She looked up at him. He was already looking at her, with the particular attention of a man who had learned, the hard way, what it cost to not look closely enough. "The tea," she said. "What about it?" "You drank it for 6 years, and you still call it terrible." "It is terrible. I drink it anyway." "Why?" He thought about this with the seriousness he applied to everything. "Because it is yours," he said, "and everything that is yours is worth the effort." Outside, Jae had stood up and was showing the rock to Sue, explaining something with animated gestures. Sue was listening with her arms folded, skeptical, engaged, exactly her mother. "Min-suk," Nadia said. "Yes. Go ask your son about the rock. He will explain it for 40 minutes. I know. Go anyway." He went. She watched him walk out into the garden and crouch down beside Jae, who immediately began the explanation. Sue drifted closer, by the small, precise increments she always used, until she was standing between them. 3 people in a garden in the early evening light. The specific shape of a family, not the kind that arrives complete, but the kind that is built, carefully, out of difficult materials, by people who choose it on purpose. Nadia made tea. 4 cups, because some things, once they are yours, you do not question. You just do them. She called them in when it was ready. All 3 came. That night, after dinner, after Jae had explained the rock in full geological detail, and Sue had corrected him twice on facts she had quietly looked up beforehand, Min-suk washed the dishes while Nadia put the twins to bed. This was not discussed. It simply happened, the way certain things happen between people who have been apart long enough to appreciate the ordinary. When Nadia came back to the kitchen, she found him standing at the counter, drying a cup with the focused attention of a man who had decided that this specific task deserved his complete presence. She leaned against the door frame and watched him for a moment. Jay asked me something tonight, Min-suk said, without turning around. What did he ask? He asked if I was going to keep coming. He set the cup down. He said, and I want you to know he said this with the exact tone of a lawyer presenting closing arguments. He said, some people visit and then stop visiting, and that is worse than not visiting at all. So before you make it a habit, you should decide if you mean it. Nadia was quiet for a moment. He is 5. He is your son, Min-suk said. He has opinions and he presents them with evidence. What did you tell him? Min-suk turned around. I told him I mean it. He looked at her directly, the way he had started looking at her, without the distance he used to keep between himself and things that mattered too much. I told him I am not going anywhere. Not again. Nadia looked at him for a long moment. Then she walked to the cabinet, took down a cup, and made him one more cup of terrible tea. She placed it on the counter in front of him. He looked at it, then at her. It is midnight, he said. I know. You made 4 cups at dinner. This one is different, she said. How is it different? She sat down across from him. The ones at dinner were for all of us. This one is just for you. She folded her hands on the counter. Because you told my son you mean it, and you looked at him when you said it, and he believed you. She paused. So did I. Min-suk sat down. He picked up the cup. He drank the terrible tea. Outside, the city made its nighttime sounds. Down the hall, 2 children slept with the absolute peace of people who had done something important that day, and knew it. In the kitchen, a man and a woman sat across from each other in the kind of quiet that does not need to be filled, the kind that means everything is already said, and what comes next is simply living it. Min-suk, Nadia said. Yes. Welcome home. He looked at her, this woman who had smiled at him while he walked out of the most important room of his life, who had protected 2 people at the cost of everything, who had waited not because she was weak, but because she was certain. And he thought about a broken office lock and a terrible cup of tea and fair scent at 3 in the afternoon, and how strange and long and costly the road from that to this had been. Thank you, he said quietly, for waiting. I did not wait for you, she said. I built something. You just finally showed up to it. The corner of his mouth moved. 2 millimeters. She had always known exactly what those 2 millimeters meant. That is, KR Mafia Saga. If this story reached something real in you, if Nadia's smile in that hospital room stayed with you, if the twins on the park bench made you smile, if the last line landed somewhere it needed to, drop a comment right now. Subscribe to KR Mafia Saga, ring that notification bell, and come back next week. We make these stories for you, every single one.